Nepal. Most people picture towering Himalayan peaks, monks' chants echoing through valleys, or maybe a climber gasping for air on Everest. But here's the secret. Nepal isn't just about mountains, it's a birdwatcher's jackpot. In this tiny country, wedged between India and Tibet, you'll find everything from glowing pheasants strutting in alpine meadows, to vultures circling high above river gorges, to parrots screaming in city parks. Over 900 species of birds call Nepal home. And trust me, some of them are so strange, you'll have to rewind just to believe what you saw. Here's the hook. In this countdown, you'll meet birds with tails like fire, owls that look straight out of a ghost story, and cranes so rare they're considered sacred. And number 15, let's just say, it might be living in your neighborhood right now, but in Nepal, it's got a whole different vibe. So stick around, hit that like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments which bird you travel halfway across the world to see. Because today we're diving into Nepal's skies, rivers, and forests to uncover 15 of the weirdest bird species you won't believe exist. If we're starting a bird journey in Nepal, we might as well start with pure fireworks. Meet the Himalayan Monal, a bird so dazzling, it looks like it stole colors from every rainbow in the sky. Males are simply outrageous. Shimmering metallic green heads, fiery orange backs, a patch of cobalt blue on the wings, and a long curling bronze tail. Move 2 steps to the left and the whole bird changes color, like a living hologram. It's no wonder this bird is nicknamed the 9-colored bird. Here's the hook. The Himalayan Monal isn't just beautiful, it's the national bird of Nepal. And in a land of sacred mountains and legendary gods, that's a big deal. You'll see it carved into art, celebrated in folklore, and even honored in traditional clothing designs. But here's the twist. While the male struts around like a Vegas showgirl, the female looks almost the opposite. Brown, camouflaged, and modest. Why? Because she's the one sitting on the nest and in the mountains. Blending in means survival. Monals live high in the Himalayas, between 9,000 and 15,000 feet, where the air is thin and winters are brutal. They scratch through snow for roots, tubers, and insects, built tough for cold nights and thin oxygen. And when startled, they explode into the air with wings that flash white and tails that blaze orange, like a fireworks show against the snow. Fun fact, in some Himalayan villages, locals once believed that monal feathers could bring luck and protection. That belief, unfortunately, led to hunting pressure in the past, but conservation laws now protect them across Nepal. For birders, spotting a Himalayan monal on a snowy ridge feels like seeing the mountains themselves come alive with color. So here's my question for you. If you could pick one bird to represent your country, would you go for sheer beauty like the monal, or something fierce like an eagle? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which bird you'd crown as your national symbol. And next we'll meet another Himalayan showstopper, one that turns mating season into a red carpet performance with horns, drums, and a booming call you'll never forget. If the Himalayan Monal was a rainbow firework, then the Satyr Tragopan is the jungle's red carpet superstar. This bird doesn't just show up, it struts into the forest like it's headed to a fashion show in Milan. The male is outrageous, fiery crimson body covered in white spots like pearls, electric blue face, and during courtship, 2 horn-like appendages pop up from his head. Yes, you heard that right. This bird literally grows glowing blue horns when it wants to impress a female. Here's the hook. The Satyr Tragopan has one of the wildest mating displays in the bird world. The male inflates a bright blue throat wattle that dangles down like a neon bib, raises those horns, spreads his wings, and starts bowing, booming, and shaking. It's like a cross between a Broadway show and a sci-fi creature reveal. And here's the twist. While the male is all glitz and glam, the female is quiet and brown, perfectly camouflaged against the forest floor. She's the judge, watching from the sidelines while the males put on their bizarre performances. Only the smoothest dancers with the brightest colors get her approval. Satyr Tragopans live in Nepal's Himalayan forests, often in rhododendron groves, where mist hangs low and flowers bloom like fireworks in spring. Their booming calls echo through the valleys, letting everyone know that the show has started. Fun fact, the name Satyr comes from Greek mythology, forest spirits known for wild, mischievous behavior. And honestly, once you've seen this bird's performance, the name makes perfect sense. For birdwatchers, spotting a tragopan in full display is the ultimate reward. You don't just see a bird, you watch a living creature turn into a carnival of feathers, sound, and light. So here's my question for you. If you were picking a dance partner, would you choose the tragopan's dramatic Broadway moves or stick with something simple and sweet? Tell me in the comments, I want to know your style. And next, we'll trade red carpets for the sky's cleanup crew. A bird that may not be glamorous, but plays one of the most vital roles in Nepal's ecosystems. We've had rainbow pheasants and horned showmen, but now it's time for a bird that isn't about looks. It's about saving lives. Meet the White-rumped Vulture, a species that may not win beauty contests, but without it, entire ecosystems and even human communities would collapse. At first glance, it's a classic vulture. Bald head, hooked beak, dark wings, and yes, that namesake patch of white feathers on its lower back. But don't be fooled by the Grim Reaper vibe. Here's the hook. This bird is one of nature's most important sanitation workers. White-rumped vultures feed on carcasses, cleaning up the remains of dead animals that would otherwise rot, spread disease, and pollute water sources. Think anthrax, rabies, and botulism, things you do not want hanging around. By stripping carcasses down to the bone in minutes, these vultures act as frontline defenders of public health. And here's the twist. Despite being once incredibly common across South Asia, their populations crashed by more than 95% in just a few decades. The culprit? A veterinary drug called diclofenac given to cattle. The chemical was harmless to cows, but lethal to vultures that fed on the carcasses. Entire flocks vanished almost overnight. Nepal, however, has become a leader in vulture conservation. By banning the drug, setting up vulture restaurants, safe feeding stations, and working with local communities, populations are slowly starting to recover. Fun fact, vultures have stomach acids so powerful they can digest anthrax spores and other pathogens that would kill most animals. That's right, what grosses us out is their superpower. Seeing one soar over Nepal's skies today is a bittersweet reminder of how fragile ecosystems can be, and how quickly they can bounce back with protection. So here's my question for you. Would you rather have a forest full of colorful but fragile birds, or a few ugly heroes like vultures that keep the whole system alive? Tell me in the comments. I'm curious where you stand. And next, we'll lighten the mood with a songbird that trades grim cleanup duties for pure charm. A forest singer dressed in fiery orange and velvet black. After the heavy, bone-crunching work of vultures, let's lighten things up with a singer. Meet the Rufous Sibia, a small Himalayan songbird that makes the forest sound like a music festival every morning. At first glance, it's a stunner. Rusty orange body, jet black cap, and sleek tail feathers edged with blue-gray. It's not huge or flashy like a monal or tragopan, but it's stylish, like the cool indie musician of the bird world. Here's the hook. Rufous Sibias are some of the most enthusiastic singers in Nepal's montane forests. Their calls are sharp, clear whistles mixed with sweet melodic notes. It's the kind of sound that makes you stop mid-hike, tilt your head, and just smile. And here's the twist. These little birds aren't just about pretty songs. They're also fiercely territorial. Pairs will chase away intruders, darting through the rhododendron groves with surprising aggression for such delicate-looking creatures. Imagine a feisty soprano who won't share the stage. Fun fact, Rufous Sibias love nectar almost as much as hummingbirds. They poke into rhododendron blossoms, sipping sugary fuel between insect snacks. In fact, they play a big role in pollination, carrying pollen dust on their feathers from flower to flower. So while they're singing, they're also planting the future forest. They live between 6,000 and 10,000 feet, where cool mountain air and misty valleys shape their world. And though they're common in Nepal, their beauty and song still stop even seasoned birders in their tracks. Watching one sing from a branch in the early morning, mist swirling around its orange chest, feels like witnessing the Himalayas themselves waking up. So here's my question for you. If you could wake up to a bird song every day, would you pick the delicate notes of a Rufous Sibia or the dramatic clang of a three-wattled bellbird from Panama? Tell me in the comments. I want to know your soundtrack. And next, we'll shift from gentle mountain music to something stranger, a bird with a feather crown and a call that sounds like it belongs in a cartoon. If the Rufous Sibia is the indie singer of Nepal's forests, the Eurasian Hoopoe is the cartoon character that crashed the party. This bird is so weird looking, it feels like it was doodled by a bored artist who couldn't decide between a woodpecker, a crown, and a trumpet. At first glance, it's unforgettable. Cinnamon orange body, zebra-striped wings, and most famously, that tall crest of feathers on its head. When excited, the crest fans open like a spiky crown, giving it a punk rock vibe straight out of the 1980s. Here's the hook. The hoopoe's call is just as strange as its look. It goes, hoopoo, hoopoo. Yes, literally the sound that gave the bird its name. It's one of those calls that makes you laugh the first time you hear it. And here's the twist. For all its goofy charm, the hoopoe has a gross little superpower. It produces a smelly secretion from a gland near its tail, coating its feathers with an odor that deters predators and parasites. Basically, it's the bird version of bug spray, with eau de stink. Fun fact, despite looking exotic, hoopoes are actually widespread. You can find them across Europe, Asia, and Africa, but in Nepal, spotting one perched on a village wall or swooping across farmland is always a treat. They eat insects, grubs, and even small reptiles, using their long, curved bills to probe deep into the soil like tweezers. Culturally, the hoopoe shows up in myths, poetry, and even as the national bird of Israel. In Nepal, locals sometimes see it as a quirky messenger. Its unique look and voice make it unforgettable. Watching one land with its crest raised feels like nature just dropped a cartoon into real life. It's funny, fascinating, and a little funky all at once. So here's my question for you. If you could choose a bird superpower, would you rather have dazzling rainbow feathers like a monal or stink-proof bug spray like the hoopoe? Tell me in the comments. I bet this one splits the votes. And next, we'll leave the crown behind and meet a common city dweller with a feisty spirit, one of the most familiar voices across South Asia. After the punk rock crown of the hoopoe, let's meet a bird that's more down to earth, but no less full of personality. Say hello to the red-vented bulbul, a little bird with a lot of attitude and one you'll spot almost everywhere in Nepal. At first glance, it's sleek and stylish. Chocolate brown body, black head, short crest that looks like a mini mohawk, and of course the splash of bright red under the tail that gives it its name. It's like the bird version of wearing a plain suit with red sneakers. Here's the hook. Red-vented bulbuls are loud, bold, and endlessly curious. They chatter constantly with a mix of whistles, squeaks, and sharp calls that make them sound like they're gossiping about you from the bushes. Walk through a Nepali village, and chances are a bulbul is already announcing your arrival. And here's the twist. For all their charm, these birds can be a little too successful. They adapt to city parks, farmland, and even rooftops, sometimes becoming agricultural pests by raiding fruit crops. In some parts of the world where they've been introduced, they're even considered invasive. But in Nepal, they're beloved as part of daily life. Fun fact, in Hindu culture, bulbuls are often linked with love and devotion, their duets symbolizing harmony between partners. You'll often see them in pairs, hopping from branch to branch like tiny comedians in a buddy movie. They're also important seed dispersers, snacking on fruits, then carrying seeds to new places. So even while they steal a fig from your garden, they're planting tomorrow's forest. Watching them is always entertaining. One moment they're singing loudly from a rooftop, the next they're squabbling over a perch, red vents flashing as they bounce around like feathered firecrackers. So here's my question for you. Do you prefer your neighborhood birds to be quiet and graceful, or loud, nosy, and full of personality like the red-vented bulbul? Tell me in the comments. I want to know your style. And next, we'll trade city chatter for forest drama with a pheasant that struts through the Himalayan undergrowth like royalty in armor. From noisy bulbils in the city, we now step back into the Himalayan foothills, where the undergrowth suddenly rustles, and out struts a bird that looks like it's wearing medieval armor. Meet the Kalij Pheasant, a bold, elegant game bird that rules the forest floor with style. The males are striking, glossy blue-black plumage that shines with metallic sheen, long flowing tails, and a vivid red facial patch that looks like war paint. Females, in contrast, are brown and camouflaged, blending into the leaf litter as if to say, "He can have the spotlight, I'll keep us safe." Here's the hook. Kalij pheasants aren't shy about showing off. Males fan their tails, strut around like bodyguards, and defend their territories with surprising aggression. Think of them as the bouncers of the Himalayan understory. And here's the twist. Though they look regal, Kalij pheasants are tough survivors. They thrive in forests, scrublands, and even near villages, feeding on seeds, shoots, and insects. This adaptability has allowed them to spread widely across Nepal and beyond. In fact, they've even been introduced in Hawaii, where they now strut around like they own the place. Fun fact, in Nepalese culture, pheasants like the Kalij are often associated with nobility and hunting traditions. But conservationists today celebrate them not for sport, but for their ecological role as seed spreaders and insect controllers. Watching one suddenly dash across a forest trail is unforgettable. One moment the path is empty, the next you see a flash of red face and shimmering feathers before it disappears back into the brush. And if you're lucky enough to see a male displaying in full strut, it feels like a private performance in nature's theater. So here's my question for you. If you could only spot one pheasant in Nepal, would you go for the rainbow-colored Himalayan Monal or the armored elegance of the Kalij? Tell me in the comments. I want to see which bird wins your vote. And next, we'll leave the pheasant's proud strut behind and slip into the shadows, because the next bird is a nocturnal ghost whose silent flight makes the night feel alive. From the flashy pheasants of daylight, let's step into the quiet of the forest at night, where a pair of glowing eyes might be watching you. Meet the spotted owl, a bird that carries an air of mystery wherever it perches. At first glance, it's beautiful, but understated. Chocolate brown feathers dotted with white spots, soft facial discs, and those large, soulful dark eyes. Unlike the piercing yellow of some owls, these eyes feel almost human. Curious, calm, a little haunting. Here's the hook. Spotted owls are masters of silence. Their wings are built with fringed feathers that break up air turbulence, allowing them to fly without a sound. One moment it's still, the next a mouse vanishes, and you never heard a thing. And here's the twist. While spotted owls are more famous in North America, Nepal has its share of related forest owls, slipping through the canopy like ghosts. The presence of owls in Himalayan villages is often seen as both eerie and sacred, a sign that spirits are close by. Fun fact, owl eyesight is legendary, but did you know their hearing is just as advanced? They can pinpoint the exact location of prey under snow or leaves, using asymmetrical ear openings that act like built-in radar. Spotted owls and their close cousins in Asia hunt mostly at night, preying on rodents, insects, and small birds. And when they call, that deep, resonant hoo-hoo-hoo echoes through valleys, sending chills down your spine and reminding you who rules the night. For birdwatchers, spotting one means long hours of patience and maybe a bit of luck. But when you finally see those dark eyes staring back at you, it feels like the forest itself has acknowledged your presence. So here's my question for you. If you were camping in Nepal and heard an owl's haunting call, would you grab your flashlight to find it or pull the covers over your head? Tell me in the comments. I want to know which kind of adventurer you are. And next, we'll trade shadows for water, because the following bird wades gracefully through rivers and wetlands, dressed in all white like a ghost in the daylight. From the owl's midnight watch, let's move into the sunshine, where rivers and wetlands turn into runways. Gliding in with elegance and grace comes the little egret, a bird that proves white can be just as flashy as a rainbow. At first glance, it's pure simplicity. Slender body, snowy white feathers, long black legs with yellow feet, and a thin black bill sharp as a paintbrush. But catch one in motion, neck stretched, wings spread, and it's like watching a ballerina cross the water. Here's the hook. Those bright yellow feet aren't just for looks. The little egret uses them as tools, stirring up mud and flashing them underwater to startle fish. Imagine fishing with jazz hands, and you've got the picture. And here's the twist. Despite their delicate appearance, little egrets are fearless hunters. They stalk fish, frogs, and crustaceans in shallow water, striking with lightning speed. One moment still as a statue, the next, a sudden stab, and dinner's served. Fun fact, during breeding season, they grow long, wispy plumes on their backs and heads, which were once so prized for fashion that egrets nearly went extinct. Feather hunters in the 19th century killed thousands for fancy hats, until conservationists finally stepped in. In Nepal, you'll see little egrets in rice paddies, wetlands, and along rivers, often side by side with buffalo or cattle, snatching insects stirred up by hooves. It's a reminder that even common birds can carry incredible stories. And though they may not glow like a monal or dance like a mannequin, there's something mesmerizing about their quiet, efficient grace. Watching one step delicately through the water feels like time slows down. So here's my question for you. If you could design your perfect bird, would you give it bold colors and drama, or keep it simple and elegant like the little egret? Tell me in the comments, I want to hear your style. And next, we'll leave the rice fields and head back to the high Himalayas, where a rare and sacred crane brings both beauty and spiritual meaning to Nepal's skies. From the calm elegance of the little egret, we now rise into the cold, wide valleys of the Himalayas, where snow peaks crown the horizon and prayer flags flap in the wind. Here lives one of Nepal's most sacred birds, the black-necked crane. At first glance, it's stunning. Snow-white body, jet-black neck and tail, and a crimson crown that glows in the sunlight. With a wingspan stretching over 7 feet, these cranes look less like birds and more like spirits floating across the sky. Here's the hook. In Tibetan and Himalayan cultures, the black-necked crane is considered a symbol of peace, longevity, and even good fortune. Local monks believe its arrival in winter carries blessings, and festivals are held in its honor. And here's the twist. Despite its spiritual importance, this bird is globally vulnerable. It breeds on high-altitude wetlands, often above 10,000 feet, where climate change and habitat loss threaten its nesting grounds. Imagine trying to raise chicks in freezing winds with yaks wandering through your nursery. That's the crane's reality. Their calls are unforgettable, deep, bugling duets between mates that echo across valleys like trumpets announcing royalty. And those pair bonds? Lifelong. Once two cranes choose each other, they stick together for life, migrating and raising young as a team. Fun fact, black-necked cranes perform spectacular dances, leaping, bowing, and flapping their wings in synchronized displays. It's both a courtship ritual and a way to strengthen bonds. Seeing it feels like watching ballet at 12,000 feet. In Nepal's Phobjikha Valley and other highland sites, locals now work hand-in-hand with conservationists to protect these cranes. Their survival isn't just about birds, it's about culture, belief, and the spirit of the Himalayas. So here's my question for you. If you could witness one bird dance in the wild, would you choose the moonwalk of the red-capped mannequin in Panama, or the sacred ballet of the black-necked crane in Nepal? Tell me in the comments. I want to see which dance wins. And next, we'll leave the high valleys for something much more familiar, but with a twist. Because in Nepal, even the common street birds have stories worth telling. From the sacred skies of the black-necked crane, we now head straight into the hustle and bustle of Nepal's towns and villages. Here, amid honking horns, busy markets, and temple bells, you'll meet one of the boldest, funniest, and most talkative birds around, the common Myna. At first glance, it's not overly flashy. Chocolate brown body, black head, bright yellow beak, and those glowing yellow eye patches that look like permanent sunglasses. But don't let the modest looks fool you. Here's the hook. The common Myna has a big personality. Mynas are chatterboxes. They mimic sounds, squawk at rivals, and chatter endlessly with their partners. Some even copy bits of human speech, giving them the reputation of feathered comedians. In a Kathmandu street, It's not unusual to hear a Myna yelling louder than the vendors. And here's the twist. Their boldness makes them both loved and hated. In their native range, including Nepal, they're considered clever survivors, adapting to farms, gardens, and city streets. But in countries where they've been introduced, like Australia, they've become invasive pests, outcompeting native birds for food and nesting spots. So depending on where you are, they're either charming neighbors or noisy troublemakers. Fun fact, common Mynas are often seen in pairs, and those pairs mate for life. Together, they defend their territory fiercely, chasing away crows, squirrels, and even dogs. Yes, dogs. That's how much attitude they pack into a 10-inch frame. In Nepal, you'll spot them almost everywhere, perched on power lines, hopping through courtyards, or strutting confidently in temple plazas as if they own the place. Love them or hate them, Mynas are unforgettable. And for travelers, they're often the first bird you'll notice on arrival in Nepal. So here's my question for you. If a bird could mimic your voice, what's the first word or phrase you'd want it to copy? Tell me in the comments. I bet we'll get some hilarious answers. And next, we'll leave the city chatter behind and return to the wild mountains, where one of the largest and fiercest owls in the world waits in the shadows. From the noisy, playful Mynas of Kathmandu, we now step into the silence of mountain cliffs and forests, where a giant shadow rules the night. Meet the Eurasian Eagle-Owl, one of the largest owls in the world, and a predator that feels like it came straight out of a fantasy novel. At first glance, it's intimidating. Huge body, mottled brown plumage, fiery orange eyes, and those iconic ear tufts that look like horns. Perched on a rocky outcrop, it seems less like a bird and more like a guardian spirit of the Himalayas. Here's the hook. Eurasian eagle owls can have a wingspan over 6 feet. That's longer than the average human is tall. When one takes off silently through the night, it's like watching a flying shadow glide across the moon. And here's the twist. These owls are apex predators. They'll hunt rabbits, foxes, snakes, and even other birds of prey. Yes, you heard that right. An eagle owl can take down hawks or crows if they get too close. Talk about ruling the night. Fun fact, despite their size, their flight is ghostly quiet. Specialized feathers break up air turbulence, so they can swoop down on prey without a sound. Imagine sitting in a forest clearing and suddenly realizing a 6-foot owl has been watching you the whole time. In Nepal, they're found in rocky hillsides, gorges, and wooded valleys, places with plenty of cliffs for nesting and open areas to hunt. Their deep, booming hoots echo far into the night, announcing their dominance over the landscape. Spotting one is rare, but unforgettable. Those blazing orange eyes staring out from the dark will stay burned into your memory forever. So here's my question for you. If you had to face a bird in a staring contest, would you pick the soulful gaze of a spotted owl or the fiery glare of a Eurasian eagle-owl? Tell me in the comments. I want to see who's brave enough to pick the eagle-owl. And next, we'll trade silent hunters for high-flying royalty, because the next bird is one of the most powerful raptors on Earth, soaring over Nepal's mountains like a true king. After the silent shadow of the Eurasian eagle-owl, it's time to meet a bird that rules the skies by day. Enter the golden eagle, a raptor so powerful and majestic that it's been revered by cultures from Mongolia to the American West. And yes, it soars over Nepal too. At first glance, it's breathtaking. Massive wings spanning up to 7 feet, golden brown plumage that glows in sunlight, and a hooked beak designed for tearing through prey. Seeing one riding the Himalayan thermals feels like watching royalty patrol its kingdom. Here's the hook. Golden eagles are among the fastest and fiercest predators on the planet. They can dive at speeds over 150 miles per hour to strike their prey with talons strong enough to snap bones. Their targets range from rabbits and marmots to foxes, cranes, and even young mountain goats. Yes, this eagle can take down an animal that outweighs it. And here's the twist. Despite their strength, golden eagles mate for life. Pairs build enormous nests on cliffs, sometimes returning to the same site for decades and adding to the structure until it's bigger than a human bed. Imagine a family home that lasts generations, made of sticks. Fun fact, in Mongolia, golden eagles have been trained by humans for centuries to hunt foxes and wolves. That partnership between human and eagle is one of the most dramatic examples of falconry in history. In Nepal, they're most often seen soaring over alpine valleys, riding updrafts with barely a wing beat. Spotting one against a backdrop of snowy peaks is a dream moment for birders and trekkers alike. But as powerful as they still face threats from habitat disturbance, poisoning, and collisions with power lines. Even kings of the sky aren't invincible. So here's my question for you. If you could borrow one eagle superpower, would you choose the speed of that 150-mile-per-hour dive or the lifelong bond of loyalty with a mate? Tell me in the comments. I can't wait to see which side you choose. And next, we'll trade sheer power for a flash of elegance. A small kingfisher that fishes with style, hovering over rivers like a tiny helicopter before striking with perfect aim. After the golden eagle's high-speed dives, let's downshift to something smaller, but just as deadly accurate. Meet the pied kingfisher, a bird that hunts fish with the precision of a drone strike and the flair of a street performer. At first glance, it's stylish in black and white, like it's wearing a tuxedo splattered with ink spots. But don't let the classy look fool you. This bird is all about action. Here's the hook. Unlike most kingfishers that perch and wait, the pied kingfisher is a hover hunter. It beats its wings rapidly, hovering high over water like a feathered helicopter. Then, bam! It dives straight down, bill first, slicing into the water and snatching a fish with laser accuracy. And here's the twist. Sometimes they'll swallow the fish mid-air before even landing. Talk about showing off. It's like ordering takeout and eating it on the way home. Fun fact, pied kingfishers are among the most widespread kingfishers in the world, found from Africa to Asia. In Nepal, they're a familiar sight along rivers and lakes, often seen working in pairs or small groups. They're also unusual because both parents, and sometimes even helpers, pitch in to feed the chicks. That's right, they run a family fishing business. Despite their small size, they're relentless hunters. Hover, dive, strike, repeat. It's an endless cycle of energy and precision, and watching that black and white blur hover against a bright blue Himalayan sky is pure magic. For birders, pied kingfishers are the kind of species that make you stop mid-trek, put your binoculars down, and just enjoy the show. So here's my question for you. If you had to catch dinner using only one bird's technique, would you choose the eagle's 150-mile-per-hour dive or the kingfisher's hover and strike? Tell me in the comments. I want to see which hunting style you'd pick. And finally, to close our Nepal adventure, we'll meet a bird that isn't fierce or flashy. It's a parrot with a splash of color and a whole lot of personality, thriving everywhere from forests to city parks. After the silent hunters and high-flying eagles, let's wrap up with a bird that brings pure fun and chaos wherever it goes. Meet the Rose-ringed Parakeet, Nepal's green-feathered chatterbox, and maybe the most recognizable parrot in all of Asia. At first glance, it's charming. Bright green plumage, long tapering tail, and for the males, that distinctive pink and black ring around the neck that gives the bird its name. They're not subtle. They fly in noisy flocks, squawking loud enough to drown out traffic. And when they land, it's like someone just tossed confetti into the trees. Here's the hook. Rose-ringed parakeets aren't shy about moving in with people. In Nepal, you'll spot them everywhere. From farmlands to city gardens, even perched on temple spires, screeching like they're giving commentary on the morning prayers. And here's the twist. While beloved in their native range, these parakeets have become invasive in many countries. They adapt so easily that escaped pets have built thriving wild populations in London, New York, and even Tokyo. Imagine walking through a chilly city park and suddenly seeing a flock of tropical parrots overhead. That's their legacy. Fun fact, these parakeets are excellent mimics. Some can copy human voices, doorbells, and even ringtones. So if you keep one as a pet, don't be surprised if it starts imitating your laugh. In Nepal, they feed on fruits, grains, and seeds, sometimes raiding crops and frustrating farmers. But their flashes of green and constant chatter have also made them beloved symbols of liveliness and freedom. Watching them wheel across the sky at sunset, long tails streaming behind, is the perfect way to end a day of birding in Nepal. So here's my question for you. If you could have a parrot that mimicked one thing you say all the time, what would you teach it first? Tell me in the comments. I bet we'll get some hilarious answers. And with that, our Nepal adventure comes to a close. But don't go anywhere. We still have one last flight together in the outro. Hey, before you click away, hit that like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments. Which of Nepal's birds completely stole the show for you? Because after this journey, one thing's for sure. Nepal isn't just about Everest and mountain climbers. It's about a sky alive with stories. We saw the rainbow shimmer of the Himalayan Monal, the horned theatrics of the Satyr Tragopan, the life-saving work of the White-rumped Vulture, and the sacred dances of the black-necked crane. We met fierce hunters like the golden eagle, shadowy watchers like the Eurasian Eagle-Owl, and noisy personalities like the common Myna and Rose-ringed Parakeet. From icy ridges to crowded markets, every bird added a brushstroke to Nepal's wild canvas. Some colorful, some haunting, all unforgettable. But here's the truth. Every one of them depends on healthy forests, rivers, and skies. Without protection, their voices, dances, and legends could fade into silence. So keep looking up, because in Nepal, the sky isn't just full of wings, it's full of wonder. And in our next episode, we'll head to another corner of the world, where birds don't just fly, they transform into legends of desert sands and ocean winds. Trust me, you won't want to miss it.